What's up, everybody? This time, I'm not gonna forget to switch scenes. 3, 2, 1, bam. What's up? Okay, we're here, we're live, and yeah, I smell like chicken because I had spent the last hour making some teriyaki chicken, searing the frickin' chicken. Well, first you take the chicken thighs. All right, listen here. If you guys wanna, I know it's a Genshin video or live stream, but if you guys ever want to make some of the best tasting chicken in the world, juicy as hell. You first take the chicken, all right? You blot it, which means you take some paper towels. You make sure all the liquid is off of that thing. Then you get some flour. You season that flour with salt and pepper. Put more salt than you would think, all right? It's probably like 2 parts flour. No, 3-part flour, 1 part salt or something like that. It's like, there's a lot of salt, okay? Then you put some pepper in there, like fine grounded pepper. And then you take your chickens, you just flour them, and you pan-sear them. Right? Just put a bit of oil in it, pan-sear them. And after you finish pan-searing them, you coat them with some teriyaki sauce, whatever. Amazing. Easy dish. But it tastes great. Very juicy. You can do it with chicken breast too. If you're trying to be healthy, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, it's not deep frying it. Yes, the oil bit is probably a bit excessive for some people. It's like, oh, too much oil. But covering it in flour, searing it, for some reason, it just preserves the juices very well. And if you're like on a diet, you don't want the sauce, you don't want teriyaki sauce, just do it like that. Sprinkle some lemon juice on it afterwards. I don't know. It's great, okay? Anyways, that's what I've been doing for the last hour. Great dinner. But today, a couple things we need to get through here. I hope we have the time. People, you can start formulating your arguments or your input, because I'm going to be picking certain people's comments out in chat and responding to them, because we need to get through this live stream. And towards the end, I hope by the end, everybody watching this live stream will have a much clearer understanding of Alhaitham versus Xiao. And even though we have no idea what the hell, like, I mean, we do kind of have an idea what Alhaitham does, but we don't have the fine details. But I promise you, by the end of the stream, we will be able to get through this, okay? Ice Emperors, welcome back to the Tusk Gang. Can I leave the basement now, Walrus? Bro, I'm gonna be honest. At this point, I think your basement has its own ecosystem, because I haven't remembered to check up on you for like the last 6 months. But somehow you're still alive down there. So I like, what you got some forestations, right? You got some greenery. Maybe you got some nice ecosystem, right? Self-sustained eco. At this point, Ice Emperor, I think it's not safe for me to open that hatch anymore, because if I open that hatch, right, I'm kind of ruining the ecosystem. And to be honest, what we got going in there right now is probably like some national treasure, right? You got a person living in a basement that has its own humidity control and whatever, with its own life ecosystem. All right, I think you're doing great down there, buddy. If you're still, I mean, you got internet, right? And so, hey, what more can somebody needs? Okay, so before we get into the details, somebody in Discord had sent me this Chinese tier list. So for people who are who can't read it, they sent it to me saying wanting me to translate it and explain the tier list. The image is not very like HD, but I can kind of go over the main categories and how the tier lists are presented. And I think, to be honest, I don't know why EN Global doesn't do tier lists like this. This is probably the most accurate way to do tier lists, okay? For people who have seen these tier lists, you guys likely will know what I'm talking about. For people who have not seen these tier lists, you likely will be extremely confused. Boris, I'm still waiting for an account review. Why have you first? Actually, this Saturday, I was saying that I was going to do account reviews because somebody was asking me to do one. So, Dante, if you can remind me on Saturday, we can do the account reviews on Saturday. How's that? This Saturday, I will be. It's been a while since I've done them. Do people recognize this? How many people in chat knows what this is? This is a CN tier list. It's a Usagi Sensei tier list. So, for people on global who don't see this type of tier lists very often, it's not for Abyss Clear. It's just for patch 3.3 character strength and like meta wise for patch 3.3. It's pretty good. All right, it's pretty good. And one of the best ways to do tier lists, especially for games like Genshin, is separating its characters into categories, into their roles, right? So, for example, why should we ever have a comparison between, let's say, Bennett and Hu Tao, right? Like, let's say, because on the global tier list, when we do global tier lists, we have like everybody just jumbled up into one tier, like, oh, the S tier, and then they got all these characters in the S tier. But as a new and starting player who just got into the game, it's incredibly difficult to navigate EN tier lists. It's just like, what the hell does all this stuff mean, right? Like, if you ended up getting like, let's say if you start the game, you got Kazuha, you got Bennett, you got Zhongli, you got Kokomi, and you got Nilu. And then you look at an EN tier list, like, oh my god, they're all like S tier, they're all top tier characters. I'm gonna smash through this game. I mean, not wrong, but you will reach a point like, you got all these characters. You're like, sure, probably you're gonna have Kokomi as a driver, right? But look at Kokomi as a driver. If you look at this list, she's a tier 3 like main DPS. So let me explain what each of this thing. This is a main DPS. Basically means on-field DPS. People who do damage while being out on field. This is support DPS. And support DPS, oftentimes, the best way for them to do damage is off-field. However, if you look right at tier 1, you'll see someone like Tignari. You'll be like, wait a minute, Walrus. Tignari is not like an off-field DPS, and you're right. The reason Tignari is here is because he can offload so much freaking damage in the short span of time that he's on-field. So it justifies him, like, it justifies you switching out of your on-field character to him and just offload damage, right? And then in tier 2, you'll start seeing some other characters who have good off-field presence. And then tier 3, tier 4, we don't really talk about those. Anyways, just because it's support DPS doesn't mean they're off-field DPS. Now, if you guys can see, I know this image is like, it's like comprised of 5 pixels, but there are small texts here, and these texts usually highlight the more like specific roles these characters filled. So for Yelan, I'm guessing it's going to be like off-field Hydro Applicator or something like that, right? And then Xiangling is going to be Pyro DPS, off-field Pyro DPS. That's like the specificity. Specificity? Is that a word? So yeah, that's what this, and this one is buffing support, and this one is survival support, right? So we got the buffing supports tier list, and then we got the survival support tier list. And you'll see some characters like Bennett, he's the best in T0 for buffing support, but he's also tier 1 for survival support. So if you run Bennett, you have both of these categories covered in one unit. Now, this is when you start realizing why certain characters are really, really high up on tier list, right? Right. I mean, the dude literally is 2 in 1. 2 categories in 1. And in many ways, I think Raiden Shogun should be like a tier 1 support DPS as well. I'm just saying. I think Raiden Shogun should be a tier 1 support DPS as well. Especially with her Hyper Bloom team out nowadays. But I guess her Hyper Bloom team, a lot of people said, oh, you know, you run her as a main DPS. But in her Hyper Bloom team, Nahida can also be a tier 1 main DPS as well here. I think Nahida should be here and Raiden should be here. So then these 2 characters, Nahida is also a buffing support, right? Like when she's in this category, she's technically in this category as well. So that's basically what this tier list is saying. When you want to get into the nicheness of each character, you have to read the subtext here, right? That's why when you look at main DPS, support DPS, buffing DPS, survival, buffing support and survival support, that's pretty much what this tier list shows. Yeah, nothing more to it than that. Let's see. It's like it's infamous in Azure Lane fandom for inaccurate tier list. Yeah, I know. Like, I mean, I don't know that, but I'm just telling you guys, this is probably a more accurate and actually helpful tier list than, let's say, just the tier list maker ones where everybody's like you got 7, 8 characters in S tier, and then you got like 15 characters in A tier. You got like 7 characters in B, and then C and D. You're really, it's like those tier lists are made for people who already owns the characters and understands the game, but it doesn't help people who are just starting out off in the game. This type of tier list, this format, is what we should probably set as the new standard for all tier lists, because regardless of whether you are a veteran, this tier list should, like, these formatted tier lists should still be able to help you, right? I don't know. In the future, would I do a tier list like this? Maybe, but like this seems like a very customized tier list. It takes a lot of time to do. Will I make any changes to this? DPS. I'm assuming all these characters are at C0, right? Like, there's no metric to what this is. So I'm assuming all the characters are at C0. I mean, I don't think there's much wrong with the top here T0. Like, these characters are really the best options you have in these categories. So, like, truly, main DPS. Like, if you're talking about C6, Yalan should be Yalan should be here as well. Top left corner, Walrus. What do you mean top left corner? You mean bottom left corner? Oh, Raiden C2 Hudasuan. Oh, is that what it says over here? Oh, that's their elemental typing. I don't know. I feel like if it's all at C0, this tier list should probably be shifted around a little bit. If it's all at C0, I don't think a lot of these characters should be where they are. But if it's at like their optimal constellations, which is very hard to say, right? Like, I think this tier list should be like a value to power tier list, whereas like sure, Ganyu C6 is insane, but you get similar power with Raiden C2 or something like that. It's very difficult to make Genshin tier list, people. Like, it's not something you just whip out and please everybody. But I think this, at least the format, should be what we aim to replicate going forward. Spooky Cat says, I don't know if it's true, but I have seen some people claim that Usaki tier list is not taken seriously on CN. I don't know. I think as a very general basis, it's a decent tier list. I wouldn't say there's many glaring flaws. Like, sure, if you want to sit down and crunch theory craft numbers down to the decimal points, I'm sure a lot of, like, not certain, but a lot of characters could be shifted up and down through tiers, and even like within their tier can be shifted left and right. But if you're, let's say, if you're a general player coming into this game and you have no idea what the hell is going on, you look at a tier list. I very much rather look at a tier list like this than like an EN tier list where it's just tier list maker, having all the characters like that, because each game has their own combat systems, and with combat systems comes like ways you can mix match characters. For example, if you start this game with Zhongli, Kokomi, like I said earlier, Zhongli, Kokomi, Nahida, and Bennett, on EN tier list, you just won the freaking jackpot. Like, you actually just won the jackpot on an EN tier list, right? But if you look at a tier list like this, then you'll quickly realize, okay, I don't really have a team. I don't really have a functioning team. I have all these amazing characters that plug into strong teams, but I just pull basically a bunch of like buffing supports and survival supports, right? That's all I have. I have no, like, a great account. A great start to account is pick one character from here, one character from here, one character from here, and one character from here in each of these categories, and there's a good chance that you'll have like a somewhat good team. But in reality, in Genshin, you probably want one character from here, two characters from here, and one character from one of these categories, right? That's how Genshin oftentimes function, is that you get one main DPS, you get likely two support DPSs, and then you either have a buffing support or survival support, right? And depending on which survival support you choose, let's say you pick Zhongli, then your buffing support can have no healing in it. But if, let's say, you pick Kokomi, then your buffing support likely don't want any healing in it. Like, if you get Kokomi and Bennett, yes, on paper, you're winning. But realistically, these two will never really be in a team together. Right? Like, that's what this kind of tier list can help a player recognize, as opposed to the traditional one that we've been working with the tier list maker. Not saying tier list maker is not good. Tier list maker, like I said, helps out veteran players. If, let's say, you just want to stay up to date with the meta every single patch, you tune into somebody who is recognized by the community, you look at their tier list every single patch, and you'll see how they shift characters up and down. I'm like, okay, that's good. I see that. Okay, moving on. But for a new player that comes in, you're like, what the hell is going on? Like, what are all these characters? Sure, okay, S tier, just get S tier characters, right? No, no, right? At least that's what I think. If you guys think that newer players get the same value out of these kind of tier lists as like these tier list maker ones, like, sure. But in my opinion, from a new player's perspective, if I were coming to a game, I would rather look at a tier list like this and really look at the fine details, and then combine this with like a YouTube video talking about the best teams that people use. If you want to be purely meta, go look at a video that people talk about the best teams that were used in this patch. Then you'll suddenly have a very clear understanding. Like, because a lot of the teams will have these T0 characters. These T0 characters are like used in probably 75 to 80% of the teams. I would even say like 90% of the teams, this patch has one of these characters in it. If not 100% of the top used teams has one of the. You know what? I'm going to say it. 100% of the teams used, like the meta teams used in 3.3, has at least one of these characters, if not more. Right? Combine that video with this tier list and you'll have a great start to the game. Okay? Now, I hope that I have explained that clearly. Moving on, we have to talk about Xiao vs Alhaitham. The reason I'm VSing these two characters, meaning like I'm directly comparing these two characters, is because they're on the same banners. Basically, people likely will look at Alhaitham, we'll look at Xiao, like, okay, they're on the same banners. Who do I choose? Which one's the better choice? And there is actually a very, very, very clear answer to this. Even though I don't know the details of Alhaitham's kit, there actually is a very, very clear answer to this decision. Okay? Tech Device is asking, Warriors tier list should be made for lowest investment for highest damage in DPS categories. That's true. That's true. You know, I think, there should be two tier lists, okay? There should be a tier list for investment, like input versus output. I think that's a very important tier list for people who want to be highly efficient, or people who have very little resource. Newer players struggling to build compositions should look to this tier list to solidify their first teams. Then there should be like total power tier list, meaning like all at best investment, all at the highest investments, right? And then basically you get to see each character's ceiling. When you properly invest into each character, what is their ceiling? And then it's up to the players to decide, okay, Yelan C6, best in the game, right? Best in the game in terms of like DPS output. But it's a C6 5-star character. Realistically, are you able to get that, right? And that's only for now. What if by the time, like 2 years later, you saved enough to get Yelan C6? By then, there's already like 4 other characters that beat certain DPS. Stuff like that. I think that tier list is important for whales and spenders, or people who have saved already for 2 years. Now they're like, okay, in this very moment, who is the best that I can go for? That tier list could be extremely helpful. Whereas this tier list should be very helpful for just general players who are trying to start building teams or branch off into other high efficient teams that they want to just spend very little resource on, but want to get a lot out of. Both of these tier lists should exist. Right? In my opinion. So, when it comes to okay, let's switch this. Let's use let's use a random team as an example. Where's Xiao? Okay. When talking about, imagine if this is Alhaitham, right? Talking about Alhaitham versus Xiao, you have to ask yourself a very important question, right? What type of team are you trying to construct here? Alhaitham's team likely, okay, I'm saying likely, Alhaitham's team is gonna be like a not a quick swap, but like a very traditional carry team. You got one main DPS, probably got a support DPS, got a buffing support, and then got a survival support, something like that, right? Or you have two buffing support, one in the healing category, one in the just raw support category. Whereas Xiao's teams are your bread and butter hyper carry teams, especially with Fadozan out. Xiao has just transformed into almost another character, I want to say. Right? People will say like, Walrus, you. This is the thing. When I made my Xiao video, let me see here. When I made my Xiao video, people were saying like, oh, you're being too critical of Xiao. But I am highlighting that the fact that Xiao has become a much better character. But you see, there's always a but. That's only if you have a C6 Fadozan. If you don't have a C6 Fadozan, you have a low constellation Fadozan. Sure, like she still helps him, but it doesn't really make him that comfortable to play. Riona says, but what if you don't have a C6? Exactly. You see, that's the point people fail to understand is, realistically, how likely is it that people actually have a C6 Fadozan? Like that's my first question to you guys. Out of the entire population of the player base, how many actually has a C6 Fadozan, right? And out of the people who have a C6 Fadozan, how many did it for Scaramouche? Let's say, yeah, okay, I got a C6 Fadozan, but I also have a C2, C3 Scaramouche. Now you have a Scaramouche. How justified is it to pull for a Xiao? Like, oh, look, BTB Stack says, I have C6 Fadozan, sad. Okay, BTB, what constellation is your Scaramouche? If you're lucky, you probably would have a C2 Scaramouche. If you're unlucky, you probably have a C0 or C1 Scaramouche. I mean, if you're unlucky, you probably don't have a Scaramouche. But here's a great example in chat. Right here, there's somebody. C1 Wanderer is why we sad. Okay, unlucky, you didn't get that C2, but you see, Chat, look at this. In the case of BTB Stack, he has a C1 Wanderer. Why would he pull another Xiao? Like, for example, if BTB, you don't have a Xiao. In this case, how can it be justified that you already have a great C1, a Nemo DPS carry in Scaramouche? Why would you pull Xiao? Like, if you don't have Xiao, like, why would you pull him? If you have him, good. Like, that's a win-win, right? But if you don't have Xiao now, why would you pull Xiao? Because, like, let's say if you pull Xiao, then you're not be using Wanderer and Xiao at the same time, right? Like, how can that resource be justified if you're, let's say, you're a more free-to-play player or you're a very low spender? Building two Anemo DPS, sure, you have Fadozan, so both of them are going to be extremely strong, but it's not like Scaramouche can't deal with the situations that Xiao can deal with. Xiao probably excels better in grouped enemy, cleaning up grouped up enemies, but at the same time, it doesn't mean Scaramouche can't do it. Right? So it's just like, check the virus is because Xiao is better. Yeah, but by how much? Right? Checking the virus by how much? Are you saying 50% better? Or is it 40, 30, 20, 15, 10%, 8%, 5%? And what scenarios? Let's say in grouped up enemies, Xiao is 30% better. But what about, pure single target? Let's say, what if his Xiao is C0 versus his C1 Scaramouche? And what about the resources that he has to now go back and farm up, and the artifacts that he has to now go refarm? Or, I mean, I guess you can, right, like, figure out what works for Xiao and just kind of mix match, but then it's not a fair comparison, right? If you're pulling a 5-star, you want to devote the resources. So now you're devoting months of resources into two of the characters that shares the same categories. Because we're talking about worth, right? Worth, let's say B2B. A lot of people would say, well, Xiao looks better, right? But that's also a very subjective way approach, right? You might think Xiao looks better, but what if B2B is like, nah, he's too short. Listen, I have nothing against short people. Nothing against short people. I I love Xiox, all right? I mean, nothing against these people, but I'm just saying, what if the players don't find the aesthetics a very important criteria when polling for these characters? Then suddenly you have to look at merits. Like, look at merits. Look at the value of the characters. Merits. What are you getting back? Sure, you have a much stronger character. You have probably, arguably, I believe, with Faruzan now, Xiao should be the best AoE DPS in the game. I can't think of anybody else who, like, sure, if you think about, I don't know, like, even if you have a perfect Morgana setup, is that going to out DPS Xiao? Probably not, because now enemies can't get away from Xiao. Xiao will not plunge them away. Yeah, Xiao still wins, because Xiao will hit all those enemies with, yeah, Xiao beats even Morgana in the most ideal scenarios, I believe. Yeah. So, it's just like, but it's the same reason why Venti isn't a top tier character anymore. Right? Venti used to be very, very high up, but because the scenarios for him to perform at that level occurs less and less and less. Similar to Xiao. I think with Faruzan and the buffing that she gives, Xiao right now should still be an insanely good character even as a single DPS. I think 80k, even some people claiming like consistently over 100k plus per plunge attack, I can believe it. I can see it with Abyss buffs and like the right teams, C6 Faruzan, right? You got your Bennett buffs, everything. With Xiao fully invested, triple crowned, level 90 with a 5-star weapon. I can believe it with the perfect Abyss buff. But it's a lot to put into this character, right? C6 Faruzan, right? Ideally a 5-star weapon. Triple crown him. I mean, that's what a hyper carry is. If you're pulling a hyper carry, you're investing into hyper carries, and you leave him at like level 80, like I do, with a 4-star weapon. Was it? Oh, I haven't used the Staff of Homa, which is unfortunate because yeah. Look, I don't have his weapon, right? I don't have Xiao's weapon. Oh my god, my cat pooped, and I just inhaled a big whiff of it. It's difficult to justify, right? If you're pulling Xiao and you don't have all that commitment put towards him, because right now he is through and through a hyper carry. That is he was always a hyper carry, but now he has the best tools that a hyper carry has access to, which is a dedicated 4-star support. I said this in some comments, is that when people try to justify pulling Xiao, I think right now, okay, listen, if you are on the fence about this, right now the only way to justify pulling for Xiao is if you have a C6 Faruzan. If we're looking objectively. Subjectively, you can say, I love his pendant. I love this thing he has around his neck. I'm gonna pull him. I don't care what anybody says. Oh my god, that shoulder pad, that spike, those 2 spikes on his shoulder pad, that's what I'm pulling for. That's like subjective, right? Like, sure, okay, go ahead. But objectively, if you don't have a C6 Faruzan, and it's not to Xiao's fault, it's not saying Xiao's a bad character, is that in picking up Xiao, do you know what you are giving up? You're giving up, I'm okay, I said Alhaitham is likely going to be mid, but if you have Nahida, if you have everything that you need to make him succeed, I think he can be a pretty decently good character. I think he'll be a good character. He won't be really mid. He'll be mid if you go in just being like picking him up and trying to make him work with like whatever you have. If you have Nahida, if you have all the tools, all characters feel great in Genshin. That's the beauty of it, right? If you have a C6 Faruzan, then Xiao is amazing. Right? If you have Nahida, Tighnari is like just insane. If you have Xingqiu, Hu Tao is cracked, but if you don't have Xingqiu, you don't have Yelan, Hu Tao sucks ass. Like, what the fuck? Think about it. Hu Tao is a crap character if you have no Xingqiu, no Yelan, no shielders to support her, right? Like, it's just how this game is designed. So that's why I'm saying, before you pick up either Alhaitham or Xiao, you need to understand the requirements to make these characters strong. Don't just be like, Alhaitham is higher up on the tier list. But then, like, let's say you have a C6 Faruzan just chilling on the side, but you have no Nahida, and then you go for Alhaitham, even though you have a primordial Jade Winged Spear chilling as well, right? That's a bad decision. By that definition, that is a bad decision. Because remember, it is not simply what you are getting, but what you are giving up. Right? What's that word in economy again? What's that word? Somebody in chat, you guys must know it. I haven't been in school in like a billion years. There's a word for things like the potential that you're losing. Potential gains? What was it called? Oh, there's a term for it. Opportunity cost. That it is. Your opportunity cost. Right now, opportunity cost is at an all-time high. Like, if you make a decision and it doesn't benefit you immensely in the short to long term, you are just quite literally burning your resources for nothing. Yeah, future gain, opportunity cost. Because right now, let's say after Xiao and Alhaitham is okay, I don't want to offend anybody. I'm just gonna give characters that are just not that sought after. Okay? Are you guys ready? You guys ready? You guys ready? Tartaglia and Eula. Okay, let's say the banner afterwards is Tartaglia and Eula. Sure, like, who cares? Man, okay, somebody cares, but most people won't care that much about those reruns. Then it doesn't really matter as much. But look, it's Hu Tao and Yelan, it's Staff of Homa and Aqua Simulacra. Even if you're not getting the characters, there's a good chance you're looking at the weapons. If you spend your resources on Xiao or Alhaitham here, you better be damn justified in doing so. Okay? Because what you are giving up is something that likely you will not see that good of a value. Basically, like, you cannot lose. You quite literally cannot lose on the next rerun banners. Even if you close your eyes and just click random buttons on your screen, there's a very decent chance you're going to get something that you can actually use, and it's very, very good for you overall. Right? That's how good of a banner the weapon banner and is. Character banners, I don't want to talk about it because character banners could be very troll, right? Sometimes people will pull for the 5 stars. Sometimes people will have to justify the 5 stars with the 4 stars, which honestly doesn't really make much sense to me unless you're a fresh new player and you want the best banner. And even then, if you're a fresh player, you're skipping 5-star banners from the get-go unless you're like a good god gamer and you got all the 4-star pieces necessary to kind of push content and be efficient with your gameplay. Sure, but I think it's always great to start with a pretty decent 5-star character and just build your account up from that, because over a long period of time you're gonna be able to build up 2, 3, 4 different teams even as a free-to-play with central key 5 stars and stuff and whatnot, that you don't really have to worry so much about your start unless you're starting on a Raiden Shogun banner, you're starting on a Nahida banner, a Zhongli banner. You might want to, like, if you are a real hardcore meta player, you might want to reroll accounts, which is a whole nightmare in of itself when it comes to Genshin Impact right now. Like, holy crap. Like, I had a hard time rerolling accounts back in the day, and I only got through like 9 accounts before I literally wanted to unplug my computer and use the cord to choke myself with it. But that's beside the point, because I got Kaching on like what the 7th or 8th account, and I was happy with that. But if you are a newer player, Alhaitham is probably the safest way to go. I said it. All right. Anybody who disagrees, let's say if you're a newer or beginning player, I don't think Xiao is the way to go. Period. Because chances are you're not going to have C6 Swaddlezan, which means you can't even use his best in slot team. But at the same time, you likely don't have Nahida, which means you can't use Alhaitham's best team. But because Alhaitham is Dendro, I'm just giving you guys my reasoning, okay? Because Alhaitham is Dendro, by that metric, it's a much cheaper comp to build with Alhaitham because of his Dendro element, and you have much more freedom because of how many meta reactions there are, that even if you have random characters of different elements, there's a good chance you can pair one of them or a couple of them to a pretty decent Alhaitham team that function at the mid-level. Because at worst, Dendro reactions are mid-tier level. That's what I mean. Worst case scenarios, even if you suck and you have the worst possible compositions, Dendro reactions by default are mid-tier level. I think the only way you can justify, like the only way I think you can justify pulling for Xiao is if you're a whale. Like, you would have to be a whale to pull for Xiao, because then you'll get Xiao, screw Alhaitham. Then next banners, you pick up Yelan and Hu Tao and probably pick up their like one of their weapons, or both. Like if you're a whale, right, you probably pick up Xiao maybe at C0 or C1, maybe get his weapon, and the next patch make sure you lock in like Yelan and maybe Hu Tao, or just Yelan C1 with the Aqua Simulacra, and then move on from there, because then you will have no problems with opportunity cost, right? As a newer player, if you're a whale or a spender, if you're picking up Xiao, you should have, like, you should make sure at least guarantee enough resource to pick up another character on the next rerun. Then you can justify Xiao or Alhaitham. I mean, Alhaitham is just like, sure, if you want him, get him. I think he'll be a pretty good character. Cassie Man's the high walls. What's up, Cat? How you doing? Are you still having fun with Genshin? What you been up to? Big Hay says, I'm someone with Xiao, but no 5-star weapon and Aqua Simulacra. Is this smarter to pull his weapon on a Alhaitham banner or try my luck on Homa and Aqua banner? Oh my god. Dude, you're basically telling me which slot machine you should be pulling on. Because okay, here's the thing. I think we have, in your specific situation, we have to consider the worst case scenario, right? Big Haze, the worst case scenario is, I mean, maybe not the worst case scenario, but like the getting the, like, not getting the thing that you want. I think, all right, this is my opinion, I think Xiao can function fine, especially, like, do you have C6 Fadozen, right? Like, if you don't have C6 Fadozen, I don't think you really need to rush on Xiao's weapon. His weapon is on the standard banner. So there's really no rush on that. And if you lose, you get Alhaitham's weapon, which at this point, I think is going to be a very niche weapon. I think it might end up just being a weapon that only Alhaitham could use very well, and some other characters could use it. So I don't think that gamble is really worth it, right? Like, you don't get his weapon and you end up getting Alhaitham's sword, or at worst, you get nothing. You get some random standard banner weapon, which also could end up being Xiao's spear. My god, wait a minute. Doesn't that make Xiao's spear kind of like an extra rate up? I don't know how that works, to be honest with you. But yeah, as opposed to pulling for the Aqua Simulacra banner, getting a refinement on the Aqua Simulacra, you don't even need to refine it. Just give it to somebody else who can take advantage of it, right? Having 2 Aqua Simulacras is not a loss. At the same time, you get Staff of Homa, that's a pretty big gain as well. That's like one of the most universal weapons in the game. Stat stick at in a worst case scenario. So I think you like, it's much smarter to go for the Aqua Simulacra weapon banner. Techie says Alhaitham is the best pickup in 3.4. Dendro makes him far better than mid Hyper Bloom floor that is far higher than free to play investment hyper carry unit. Yeah, that's what, like, if you're a newer player, I think picking up Alhaitham is a very, very smart choice. Picking up a Yelan doesn't immediately make you strong. Picking up a Hu Tao doesn't immediately make you strong. But I think pulling up Alhaitham for most people is going to be the best course of action if you're a new player. For anybody who has their accounts already semi-developed and are missing key components, depending on what you're missing, you can probably plug it pretty neatly with Yelan or Hu Tao. If you're missing a DPS and you have like all the pieces to make Hu Tao work, Hu Tao is a very, very good pickup, right? Now, I'm not saying Alhaitham, like, Hu Tao is just definitively better than Alhaitham, like at a veteran level, but I'm just saying it's very easy to plug a main DPS if you already have all the support DPS. Cassie Manga says, I'm still having fun, just less obsessed. Just trying to pull for C2 Raiden. How are you? I'm doing good. I don't pull for constellations really often, but when I do, I tend to take those characters and slot them in very permanent positions in my game. So nowadays, I'm hunting for very, very high value constellations. The constellations that I pull are just like, I'm trying to min-max my constellation spendings while also trying to keep balance the all the C0 characters. But at this point, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna continue getting these C0 characters. I just don't feel like I mean, you guys feel free to correct me, but I just don't feel like a lot of the newer characters are as exciting especially at C0 with somewhat okay investment. It feels like every character that comes out nowadays, you must maximize them, pull for their supports, and in some cases, you ideally want their weapon. And I have nothing wrong. I have nothing against that. I think that's a great way to kind of design your characters and incentivize people to put in more resources. I think that's a pretty smart way to do it. But personally, it's very tiring to keep up, and most of these characters, like, there's only so many slots in the team, and there's only so many teams that you can make without just starting to feel like it's a total grind. So I don't burn myself out by grinding for characters. Nowadays, I really try my best to make the characters that I love playing feel better. So that's what I've been up to. Take it very slow. I use my resin very sparingly. I haven't farmed artifacts like a crazy person for a couple months now, because I've just been cycling through old artifacts onto different characters. So like that should tell you a lot. Like these new domains, sure, the artifacts are important for the characters that are coming out to make them really, really powerful. But I've gotten away with certain characters running like old artifacts that just like they're not the best in slot artifacts, for example, and they still can crush content. So, you know, it's just the HVK is my take is Hu Tao at C0 is annoying to play, but if you get Yelan, you can run double Hydro with Xingshu, and anybody deals massive damage. Yelan is the better pickup. Yeah, Yelan is the better pickup. But right now, between Alhaitham and Xiao, I think Alhaitham is the better pickup, which really just means that Xiao banner is the weakest in 3.4. When it comes to objectively speaking, Xiao's banner probably has the least value. Does anybody object to that? We can continue the conversation depending on people's arguments for Xiao. Do we have anybody who wants to defend Xiao in chat? Valorant says me. Okay, Valorant. Let's hear your side of the argument. Because I've been thinking about this, like, these are very strong characters, very, very, very good banners in 3.4 all around. But if we had to say, like, one character is just not as good as the rest, I've got to say it's Xiao. Nat says, all I can say is that he stays winning in looks. And I think that's his biggest detriment as well, because if he wasn't so popular and so good looking, I don't think EroticWalruss would have targeted him this hard. If you guys haven't watched my most recent video, you guys should go check it out, because I talk about, like, I touch on the point that every good looking character, every popular good looking character just gets completely shafted by EroticWalruss. And I don't think that is a coincidence. Poor Xiao. Yeah. Xiao is pretty unfortunate in this case. Let's see if the Velaran typed something. But give him some time to maybe formulate his response, and we'll respond to it. The point is not to make fun of him. The point is we want to see what other people think. Like, what does the opposition think when it comes to Xiao's value, and how to justify polling for him just generally. All right, let's not even talk about newer players, older players, veteran players. Just generally polling for him is just like, I mean, if you have C6 Faruzan, but right now people who have C6 Faruzan, you see, this is the problem. Right now, even if you have a C6 Faruzan, you likely have a Scaramouche with constellations. Likely. There's a chance you have a C0 Scaramouche, and and if you haven't built him, then suddenly maybe it gives more weight to pulling Xiao. But if you have a C0 Scaramouche and you've already built him up, he's level 90, it's then once again it's hard to recommend Xiao because you don't want to have many carries in the same DPS category with the same elemental typing. That's like a problem. If you have two Anemo DPS, like let's say if you have 3 DPS and 2 of them are Anemo like hyper carries in Xiao and Scaramouche, there will come a day when in the Spiral Abyss you run into a problem where you can't use either of them. Right? Think about it. If suddenly a Nemo, like you have an enemy who is resistant to a Nemo damage, who's just immune to it, you have 2 of them. You have a Scaramouche and you have a Xiao, and then let's say you have a Hu Tao. You're screwed. You can't do it. That abyss, you can't clear it. Right? Like that's the kind of problems you end up running into, and you spend so much resource built, and you also have a C6 Photozan, which likely means you don't have very strong other C4 characters. I mean, other very strong 4-star characters just sitting around. Then you're completely screwed. You're like, oh, Walrus, well, I'll just use a pseudo team to, yeah, but right, like you've invested so much into these Nemo hyper carry. That's why hyper carry teams. Ooh, Alhaitham teaser is out. Hold up. Quick change of plans. Quick change of plans, my friends. Aha. Where is it? I just got the notification. Where the hell did it go? Where's my Alhaitham teaser? Twitter. What? I saw it just now though. I saw it. It popped up on my phone. No. It's out. It's out. Oh, I see it 2 minutes ago. Okay, chat. Oh, whoa. Should I record it? Probably not for the teaser. Maybe for the demo.
The origins of writing are lost to time, and it is forbidden to investigate the genesis of language. But since their inception, these symbols have silently recorded everything. The skies, the stars, the mountains, and the birds. Conflict, peace, and people from all walks of life. Words are strung together and edited, history made, and archived for posterity. The scribe records not only the truth, but the questions it leaves unanswered. Many of them will remain unanswered forever. The profoundest eternal questions are met only with a boundless and eternal silence.
Okay, like I mean, yeah, like we get it. He's a very sophisticated character. Like he's a very sophisticated character. It's a very well made teaser, and I love how they kind of like I love how they were able to visualize the experience that people go through when reading a book. For people in chat who are like readers and actually enjoy reading books, okay, doesn't it like Was that not a very accurate representation of how your mind generates images when you read like text on a page? It's like you are vividly hallucinating by reading text printed on a sheet of paper. Does manga count? Yeah, sure. Yeah, because mangas aren't moving, they're not talking, but you create the voices of the characters and the movement. Like a well-drawn manga will give you the sense of motion without actually moving. That's what's so beautiful about this form of storytelling, right? It's great. And I mean, I know it was an Alhaitham teaser, but it really impressed me how they were able to represent the fantastical nature of reading good literature by vividly expressing the how the imagination is able to wander while reading. It's great. And yeah, Alhaitham, what a sophisticated dude. How's this? One moment, chat. Just one moment. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Does reading Icha Tactics count? I mean, I'm sure Jiraiya and Kakashi were hallucinating beyond their wildest imaginations, right? Joe D says Valorant responded on Xiao. You might not have seen it. What do you mean Valorant? Like responded to my video? Who's Valorant? Valorant Xiao? Who is Valorant? Oh, Valorant. Oh yeah, oh, Valorant. Oh yeah. Responded on Xiao. Um, let's see. Valorant. Sorry. We started watching the thing. Yeah. We can get back to the discussion. Valorant. Valorant. I'm scrolling up. One moment. Okay, is this the one? I think even though his element pulls him back, and even though he may need Zhongli, if learn how to play him a bit, I think he can put some A tier DPS on an AOE. No, his AOE is SS tier. Like right now, his AOE is probably the best in the game. If you have C6 Fadozan, if you don't have C6 Fadozan, then it becomes kind of situational. But I get your point. Which is what I like about Xiao. Okay, that's a fair judgment. But right now, if you're trying to, let's say Valorant, if your goal right now is to tell people and convince people to pull Xiao over let's say Alhaitham, or pull Xiao over Yelana Hutao, or the Aqua Simulacra, the Star of Homa banner, what is your best argument for pulling Xiao, right? Like for example, you can say, yeah, he's a great AoE DPS, and if you pick him up, I think he's gonna serve you very well. Even without Fadozan, like right, I can give it to him. Like even without Fadozan, he's still a good character. But right now, we have to look at the competition. But if looking at the competition, what is your best argument to say, yeah, you should skip Hutao, you should skip Yalan, you should skip Alhaitham, and you should skip the Hutao and the weapon banners? And here's the reason why Xiao deserves your attention, your primos over all those other characters. What would be your answer to that? Because remember, you're saying you should skip all of them to get Xiao. And here's why. Right? Like, so why is that? He is cute. Objective reasons. We're back to look. You know a character is kind of screwed when people are like, "Well, you should pull him because he's good looking. You should pull him because he's cute. You should pull him because he needs love. he's had a hard time. You should pull him because he deserves your love and attention." You know a character is in a bad position when that's the Tech devices, Walrus hypercarry units should be skipped completely. Too much investment for decent damage, just low investment into hyper bloom. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking when it comes to input versus output, hyper carries really need to step up their game. I think the only way to justify hyper carries are by their end result, which is after you've invested everything, you've dumped your whole life savings into this character, they should absolutely be crushing the living daylights out of anything you ever come across. Like Xiao with a C6 Faluzan is good, but like C6 Xiao with a C6 Faluzan is probably just insane. But then again, here's another argument for you guys, okay? Right now in chat, do you guys think C6 Xiao and C6 Faluzan hypercarry team is better, or C6 Ito and C6 Goro hypercarry team is better? Type 1. Actually, you know what? I'll just do the poll. I'll just do a poll because this one actually deserves a poll. Let's see. Start a poll. C6 Xiao plus Faruzan vs C6 Ito plus Goro. Who? Right? Because I still think Ito has a leg up. To be honest, maybe that's a little biased to say that before you guys vote, but I think you guys are critical enough to be able to answer this question. Remember, C6 Xiao and C6 Faruzan versus C6 Ito and C6 Goro. I think C6 Faruzan is a better character than C6 Goro, but C6 Ito is a better character than C6 Xiao. And by that metric, Ito should still win because 5 stars just way more. Let's see people's vote first, right? If you guys just cast your votes, I'm not too surprised by the results so far of the vote. So the perfect Xiao team with C6 Xiao, C6 Faruzan, R5 his best in slot weapon, the Primordial Jade Winged Spear, and Ito gets R5 Red Horn, I believe. Dude, this the more I say it, the more unfair it is for Xiao. You know, Red Horn is a much better weapon, in my opinion, for Ito than Winged Spear is for Xiao. Blue Choo Choo says Ito because Pogo gameplay hurts my eyes. Oh. Goro's value, especially C6, should not be underrated. He's a true carry for Geo teams. Right, but the thing is, Faruzan C6, I'm comparing Goro C6 to Faruzan C6. Faruzan C6 is a transformative character that changes Anemo hypercarry comps. But granted, she fixes an issue that ideally should have never been there to begin with. Right, chat? Can we all agree with that statement? Faruzan C6, by grouping enemies with her C6, is solving a problem that should have never, ever, ever even been a problem for Anemo hypercarries to begin with. Let's be honest, Xiao C4 should have included a little vortex that deals additional damage. For example, C4 Xiao, every time he plunges, he should have like a mini suction that sucks all the enemies in and then deals an additional instance of Anemo damage scaled off of his like maximum attack or something like that. And it should like ideally heal him for a percentage of the damage that is done. That's what Xiao C4 should be. Xiao C6 should be dashing regardless of enemies. This is what Xiao C6 should have been. C6 should have been, he gets no cooldown on his elemental skill every time he plunges, regardless of and however many enemies he hit. And if he hits 2 or more enemies, there should be a buff. Like he should get a damage buff. Like that would put him on par with Ito. Right? Or that dash thing should have been a C4 and his suction thing should be a C6 and gives a good buff to Xiao's DPS. That in that case, he should rival Ito at C6 because then his single target ability goes through the roof. Right now, the problem is if you're fighting a boss at C6 Xiao with C6 Farazan, it's like Xiao is C1. There's no difference. Apart from the talent levels, which Ito also have, Xiao is essentially C1 if you're fighting a boss. Right? The issue of CC should have never existed with a Nemo hyper carries. Same with Scaramouche. I think Scaramouche should have never had issues grouping enemies by himself. Faruzan should not be a solution to these Anemo carries' weaknesses. Termina 27 is asking, is the 3.4 Desert expansion the last map expansion of Sumeru, or are we getting another? There is a small chance that we're getting another, but I think they're just gonna do 2 more patches into the summer island stuff, right? You're not gonna get another expansion. Instead, you're gonna get the archipelago back, and then we move into Fontaine. That might be what they're doing. So this, yeah, like to answer your question, this might be the last edition. MDMA for you is saying, isn't his C6 the same damage as plunges against more than 2 enemies? What do you mean? Are you saying like, oh, like it's like the infinite dashes does the same thing as just continue to plunge on enemies? In a way, yes, but in situations where enemies are very spread out, his C6 essentially kind of solves that problem. You basically clear the room regardless of what position the enemies are in. So Xiao C6 in more ways than one kind of addresses the issue that he can't group enemies very well, because it kind of trivializes the need for grouping enemies, if that makes any sense. But Faruzan makes his C6 even better in these group situations, because now he groups them up and then he skewers all of them infinitely with like no downtime, right? So kind of disgusting. But then again, no instances of any content in Genshin can actually survive multiple Xiao plunges to begin with. So if you have a C6 Xiao, it kind of feels like C6 Xiao truly is an overkill, because Xiao at C1 already completely demolishes all the content that are like grouped content to begin with. Right? So C6 Xiao, I mean, I don't know what they were smoking when they decided, yeah, you know, C6 Xiao shouldn't be able to dash when he only plunges one enemy. Nah. Whoever decided that should be tied down and allow all Xiao mains to go up and punch them once. Whoever decided that C6 for Xiao should just let every single Xiao main in the world walk up to them, slap them, or punch them once. They owe it that much to Xiao mains. Whoever designed Xiao C4 should be banned from game design, period. You know, I saw, not to pick on people, but I read a comment when they were justifying Xiao C4, saying, you know, Xiao C4 is not that bad of a constellation. Yeah, it's not great, but, you know, getting Xiao C4 means you don't have to run a shielder anymore, which opens up room to another insane buffer on your team. And I was just sitting there like, wow. You know, like, when you truly love somebody, you will justify their flaws in any way possible. When I was reading that comment, my brain was just like in hyperdrive. I was like, they're trolling me, right? Like this has to be a troll comment. But then like I was in a conversation with them in a comment section back and forth for like multiple comments, and I was just sitting there like I was processing as like, wait a minute, like this individual actually, like they actually believe it. They actually think like that is a legitimate, justified consolation. Oh, is somebody knocking? It was Jabba. It was Jabba. Sorry, she pretended like somebody was knocking on the door. But yeah, like they were saying, oh wow, like C4 Xiao makes it so you don't need a shielder anymore. I, I I didn't even want to argue anymore because I was like the counter argument to that is like, well, shielders are there for Xiao not simply because to protect him from taking damage, but it's also to protect him from being interrupted. But yeah, like Xiao, very rarely would Xiao actually be interrupted because like he's just going up and down at such a high pace that, right, like the anti-staggering thing isn't really that big of an issue. But oftentimes you have Bennett on your team, so like you know, like yeah, sure, you probably ideally if you're not running Zhongli, you know, maybe you can get away without a shielder to begin with. You should be running like the hyper buffing dude or Gao or whatever. But like people oftentimes forget that in a non-viridescent situation, Zhongli is one of the best, like the pseudo buffers, apart from Thrilling Tales of whatever the hell that book is called. It's like TTDS or like Dragon Slayer or something like that. Apart from like those kind of buffs, Zhongli is a very, very good pseudo buffer. Well, debuffer, not buffer. Pseudo debuffer through his Jade Shield. And the Jade Shield follows the character. So Xiao will always have the Jade Shield effect on enemies. And because there's no initial Anemo Shred unless you're running Fadozan, if you're running Fadozan, then it kind of diminishes the value of Zhongli's Shred because you kind of have a little too much. You know what I mean? But anyways, it's hard to justify Xiao C4 saying like, well, you don't need a shooter, but then like right, then you have to run a Thrilling Tales, right? Then you run a Thrilling Tales user, which is fine. Like you run Bennett, you switch into Thrilling Tale. No, you run Bennett, then you go to wait, what's the order should be? No, it probably should be Fadozan, right? Because her burst lasts the longest. It should be Fadozan burst into Bennett burst into Thrilling Tales, into Xiao, then yeah, you get another nice damage buff to begin with. But my point is, you don't need C4 to justify running that, right? If you have an insane, you know, character that can run Thrilling Tales, you don't need Xiao C4 because you have Bennett on your team. You have Bennett on your team, right? So it's like I didn't feel like writing that out, so I was just like, you know what? You're right. Xiao C4 is pretty insane. Damn, I didn't think about that. Tech Device says Walrus Alhaitham is the most free-to-play friendly unit in the next. Do you agree he is not mid because Dendro reactions are broken? Well, see, here's the thing, right? With Alhaitham, we have to look at Alhaitham like this. I think Alhaitham should be better than Tignari. Right? I think Alhaitham should be better than Tignari. Because if Alhaitham is the same to Tignari or Tainari, that is going to be very, very disappointing. Look, the problem with Alhaitham is even if he's decent, he will be considered mid. Why? Because he's too popular. Right? So by the standard of the game, Tainari, Tignari, he's a standard banner character. Alhaitham has to outperform him. But the problem now, my question for Alhaitham is, how much does he need to outperform him? Is it the bare minimum? Right? Let's say if Tainari has Nahida and Alhaitham has like the Dendro MC, is Alhaitham still outperforming Tainari? Right? You see, like, we have to ask these questions because how much better is Alhaitham to Tighnari? That's how we decide whether he is mid or good. I think if you want Alhaitham to be good, he has to be like... I'm trying to think of a great way to compare him to a character that could justify him being good. If he performs, let's say 10-15% better than Tighnari, with Nahida, like in his best in slot team versus Tighnari, 15-20% is that range where I start to like, okay, yeah, he's a pretty good character. But Daryl Walker says Xiao C4 enhances his shielder, not replaces them. The thing is, Xiao doesn't ever take damage with his shielders. I know we're back to the Xiao argument again. Even though we're in the middle of Alhaitham. I don't believe Alhaitham is gonna be above decent, especially at like face value. I think the conditions to make Alhaitham good is going to be not crazy demanding because he's Dendro, but his best in slot teams likely will require 5-star characters that some people don't have, what most people should have. If you're a newer player, Alhaitham is still a good pickup because he can function well with 4-star characters, right? But if he's like, oh, I'm only gonna be insane if you give me Nahida, I don't know. I'm kind of not a huge fan of characters nowadays relying on Nahida because how many characters at this point wants Nahida? Like how many characters needs Nahida? What, Daihia's gonna need Nahida too, right? So it's gonna be who? Tighnari, it's gonna be Sino, it's gonna be Nilu, it's gonna be... Does Scaramouche need Nahida? No, right? Scaramouche doesn't use Nahida. Oh, thank God. Probably Scaramouche doesn't. Yeah, he's a hyper carry. So, and then now it's gonna be Alhaitham, and then it's gonna be Dehia. Like all 5 of these characters are gonna be fighting for Nahida. So it's like then you gotta pick out of these 5 characters who's probably the best functioning unit with Nahida. Yai wants Nahida, Kaching wants Nahida, Ganyu wants Nahida. Who doesn't want Nahida? Raiden wants Nahida. What the hell's going on with this game? You know, it's gone to the point where like Alhaitham, actually, I would be very impressed with Alhaitham if his best in slot team doesn't include Nahida. Then he'll be a good character. Like, then he'll be a good character, in my opinion. I don't... Yeah, I'm kind of sick with the whole Nahida thing. I'm kind of... Like, every character wants Nahida. Then it stops being about comparing him to just other characters in the characters. Like, you gotta compare him to other Nahida comps. It's okay. Then the question becomes: is Alhaitham Nahida combination the best possible combination there is out of all the other possible Nahida combinations? Is he the best one? Right? Is he? Because if he is, then yeah, he's a great character. But if you're telling me, oh, there are other Nahida comps that are better, then I'm just like, oh, okay. EroticWalruss, that is not fair. You are saying Tighnari is good when he has Nahida on his team and he needs Yai and Zhong. Yeah, I can see why you think that is unfair. And that probably is unfair. But the thing is, Tighnari is a standard banner character. He's accessible to everybody. Everybody can get him just randomly. Whereas this is a limited character. He comes around once, probably a couple months. You need to, like, right? A standard banner character that you can just pick up on a whim, well, not on a whim, but like you just randomly, you go, oh my god, a Tighnari just popped up out of nowhere. Like giving him these characters, and he has a very high functioning team. He's a good character by that, because I'm comparing him to standard banner character. Remember, Tighnari is a standard banner character. Alhaitham is not a standard banner character. If like you can likely get random ass constellations on Tighnari without even trying. Whereas Alhaitham, you gotta wait months for his rerun, right? Like that's the difference between these two characters. That's why I think, sure, like people's like, oh, but that's not fair. You're giving Tainari more. Yeah, but that's because initially he requires less. You know, like there are people who likely have Tainaris just sitting around doing nothing because they got spoofed by him. Albedo should be standard banner. I second that. I think Albedo is the perfect addition. But I've made predictions in the past that the first Geo standard banner character is going to be a crystallized character who specializes in revamping crystallized. It's going to be like super crystallized. They're going to release a Geo character in the future that works around crystallized. I said this like almost a month ago, all right? Apparently, I got people messaging me saying like, Walrus, what are the sources of your leaks? Because you actually got that one right. Like, Walrus, how the hell do you know that shit? Like, how did you know that was going to be leaked like a month before? I was like, I didn't. Like, no, you look at leaks and you have an informer. That's right. My informer, his name is Dawe. You might have heard him. He's the CEO of HoYoverse. So apparently, because someone saw the Fontaine leak. I said this a month ago, bro. Like over a month ago. Who here in chat remembers when I was talking about the whole crystallized thing? Like 5 live streams ago. Probably even further back than that. I was saying like, as the course goes on, the next thing they have to fix is crystallize or revamp that shit. Like they have to either fix it or revamp it. That's like the next big thing they have on their agenda, and that will only come probably out like when Fontaine hits because of the timeline. Because they have to flesh out what's the thing that's the burning and the virgin comms. They don't have time to flesh that out and fix crystallize. So which one's going to take priority? You think they're just going to stop dendro progression and fix crystallize? No, they're going to flesh out burning, they're going to flesh out virgin, then they're going to be like, oh, what's next? Right in the border of the downtime between maybe Fontaine and between arriving at Fontaine and the dead patches, that's when they're gonna introduce, oh my god, super crystallize, and then people are gonna be like, oh, crystallize is fixed, and completely ignoring the fact that we're in the most like dead patches in between regions. And then the character that gets dropped, that's gonna revamp crystallize and make that a super meta thing, will bleed into Fontaine meta, because that's gonna be the Kazuha, the Yelan of 3.0. Does that make sense? Am I crazy to anticipate this stuff? They're gonna release that character on 3.7, and if you don't pick that character up, a lot of Fontaine, like crystallized Fontaine metas, are gonna not be accessible to you, and you're gonna freaking kick yourself in the nuts, being like, "Oh my god, how could I skip such a good character? I thought crystallized was crap." See, I told you guys about this over a month ago, and now the leaks are out, and people's like, "Walrus, you look at leaks." What? Listen, people, you watch my streams, I guarantee you, like most of the time I say dumb stuff, okay? But once in a while, I'll drop something that probably is more important than I even realized at the time. But listen, you just have to think about what the game is missing. When it comes to meta, when it comes to combat, what is the worst possible thing people run? Crystallize. And I had people in those videos saying like, Walrus, Crystallize has its uses, you're just not a good player. It's like, no, right? Okay, like sure, give me one good comp that revolves around Crystallize, just one good meta comp that's like, oh, like this Crystallize comp is insane, bro. Like there is none. That's a problem. That's one of the major reactions in the game, and Geo doesn't have many reactions. Geo only has crystallized. That's why that's a huge issue that they have to address. It's just right now they cannot do it because they're in the middle of something, right? That's all. That's the train of thought I was going down, and it just happened that it was correct, right? Doesn't mean I look at leaks, and this is gonna annoy me because now every time I talk about this stuff, people are like, "Oh, Walrus, you look at leaks." Absolutely disgusting. Anyways, Techie says, Walrus, even if Alhaitham needs Nahida to be at his best, that doesn't make him mid. By that logic, Nilou is mid as well, so is Sino. Oh, don't get me wrong. I think Sino is a pretty unfortunate character. I'm pretty disappointed by Sino. Pretty disappointed. But that's beside the point. Meta-wise, damage-wise, I'm sure they're high-performing characters. The thing is, Alhaitham needs if Alhaitham needs Nahida to be at his best. Well, here's the thing, Techie. You have to now consider with how many characters needing Nahida. At most, you can run one of them, right? Right? In one given moment, you can only run one comp that runs with Nahida. So by definition, in the beginning, when we first got Nahida, okay, she had like 4 or 5 comps, but now she has all these comps and all these comps and all these comps and all these comps. Then suddenly it becomes like, okay, even if I don't get Alhaitham, I have like 7 comps to run Nahida with. 7 that are constantly competing with each other to run Nahida. Does Alhaitham change that? Does Alhaitham be like, okay, screw all the other comps, my Nahida is slotting in my Alhaitham comp because that's where she belongs. That's where she shines the most. Right? So it's just like, that's why, like, comparative to all the other comps that Nahida can run with, what makes Alhaitham the one to go for? Right? Especially if people already have Ganyu, already have all these other compositions, even traditional comps like Kachin comps. What makes him better? What makes him better? What could be the reason to justify Alhaitham over all these other options? Or is he just another option that slots right in the middle amongst the rest? See, that's my train of thought, right? Sure, if he wants to be not mid, then he has to be good. Then he has to be justified. Then he has to be better than all the other options. Or at least above average. Let's say out of the 8 comps, is he the 3rd best comp to run with Nahida with? Then yeah, maybe he's a good character even by that standard, right? Because some of these teams are the most meta teams in the game right now. Well, simple because he can run Quick Bloom, which Tighnari can't do with Nahida. Fair enough. But the thing is, opening a new composition doesn't immediately make a character strong. I'm pretty sure he's stronger than Tighnari, but Tighnari, by the definition of this Nahida hierarchy, isn't very far up on the Nahida hierarchy. Like, he's a good choice for free-to-plays who got spoofed by Tighnari, or people who just end up with multiple constellations of him for whatever unfortunate reason or fortunate reasons. He's a good pickup. He's a good character to just kind of slot in. Like, you have a 4-star, or you build up a Kuki Shinobu, right? You got like official already built. Like, he's a pretty good character to just kind of slide in there. There are better Nahida comps though. And remember, we said Alhaitham should be better than Tighnari. Like, that should be a bare minimum. Tighnari is the floor, Techie, not the ceiling. We have to get that straight. If Alhaitham comes out and he is worse than Tighnari, this character is just dead on arrival. So by that, like, sure, he's better than Tighnari. That's the bare minimum. He has so far proven to be better than the bare minimum, which I give him more credit for. He's actually better than the bare minimum. I think likely his Nahida comp, in order to drive sales, likely is going to be one of the better ones out there. I think so. So it's like, but like, how much better is he? Like, that's what my question right now is. Like, you see, the question mark here is he the best Nahida team comp, or is he the top 2 Nahida team comp? Quick Bloom is pushing the damage ceiling by having Quicken and Hyper Bloom like Sino. Yeah, like I know that though, right? Like I know that. And Sino Nahida teams are pretty strong. Nilou Nahida teams are very strong. So Alhaitham Nahida teams have to be just as strong, if not more so, right? what are the top 2 Nahida comps right now? I don't even know, like, in terms of raw DPS or like raw. I honestly feel like it could even be situational, depending on the buff in the abyss and like the enemies you're fighting. Single enemy or a few enemies or groups of waves of enemies. Different enemies will, for example, right? I think single instances of raw damage, Melt, Ganyu, Nahida probably is the highest. Like if we're talking about single instances of damage, but it's very infrequent, meaning you get one shot off every like 1.5 seconds or something like that, right? So it's not very consistent, and there's too much downtime, right? When you have downtime, then you're not really doing much damage. Whereas there are very consistent comps like Hyper Bloom comps, right? In Nahida Hyper Bloom or Nilou Super Bloom comps. Right? Quick swap teams have very little downtime, but decent bursts, right? Higher burst instances of burst damage, but with like small in between downtime. So it really depends what enemies you're facing. That's why like Nahida is so great. It's actually, it doesn't matter who you're fighting, what type of enemies, what kind of abyss buffs, or whatever. She has a comp that you can pull out of your ass cheeks at any given moment and just completely trivialize the content. That's the thing about Nahida comp. Now, out of all that, where does Alhaitham fit in? You see, Alhaitham, let's say if he fits a burst quick swap, like a burst, like, what am I saying? If he fits a quick swap as well as a burst composition, then suddenly he has a lot of value, because then he is himself invalidates multiple Nahida comps. You're like, you don't need to run those anymore. Every time you run into those situations, just run me. Just run Alhaitham, right? Just run this comp, then he solves both of these problems at the same time. Then that's value. That right there is value. What is that? That's consolidation. You are now mixing 2 comps into one. That's where the value is at. Really, people, look at Genshin Impact. Right now, we shouldn't be looking towards more damage. That doesn't matter. Right now, what matters is more utility. Can this character do the job of multiple characters? Can I now stop running those other comps and just run this comp? So I can justify leveling this character up, investing into this character, talents, constellations, weapons, whatever, because now he takes on the job of 2 other DPS characters. That's the question I'm trying to answer for Alhaitham, and we'll figure that out once he comes out. Nick Enrique says Double Hydro Hu Tao is best team in game. I wouldn't say it's like the best, but I think it's like probably what, top 5. I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass right now, but I would say it's like top 5, maybe most used teams in Abyss. It's very consistent with the amount of boss fights that we've had. Like I think Hu Tao Double Hydro is just very solid, very, very solid. Tech devices. My point is that you can't hold him to a standard as Nahida free for Alhaitham and not for other units. Nahida is like cause over. Yeah. I think right now I'm pretty much waiting to evaluate Alhaitham comparative to the other Nahida comps. Like I'm gonna give him Nahida. And see how he performs comparative to all the other Nahida teams. JM watches, I cleared 12-3-2 in 32 seconds with Nilou. It's ridiculous. Bro, like some of these Dendro characters are just like, okay, you're basically trading off versatility and fun for power, right? Like Nilou comps are very straightforward essentially, and they're very restrictive, very niche, but in exchange you get immense power. But she's very, very restricted. But hey, a 32-second clear worth every bit of restriction that is put on me. The most used team with this Abyss cycle is Nilou Bloom. I think Nilou Bloom is going to stay a very, very consistent performer in most Abyss metas. I hope Dehya is. I prefer more variety. I hope they. Oh my god, I'm so damn concerned about Dehya. I really want to just. I wish I was as big as Twanto and just make the announcement and say like, stop hyping up Dehya. Everybody, shut up right now for the next like patch. I think she's coming out in what 3.5. Everybody shut up until 3.6. Okay? And Dehya will be amazing. I guarantee you. If nobody talks about Dehya, nobody retweets HoYoVersus tweets. Nobody like just go crazy and like right now people are probably like, just losing their goddamn mind. The second Dehya like official Dehya news comes out, people will retweet the crap out of that, and HoYoVerse will be like, "Huh, interesting. Okay, tune down her damage by 40%. Make her C1 not as good, and put more of that C1 power into C2. Put more power away from free to play weapons. Remember that free to play weapon we're gonna give them during the events? Yeah, remove that. Put that effect. You see that that weapon free to play effect? Put that into her 5-star weapon. And what else? Yeah, let's tune down the Burgeon stuff. Actually, you know what? Take that Burgeon stuff, put it in her C4. Yeah, okay, good. What else can we do? You know what? Design team, draw up a 4-star character design for Dehya and take some of that C6 that we have in her right now, put it in that 4-star. No, not scrap that. Not that C6. Take that C2. Yeah, that C2 effect. Put it into the 4-star C4. Yeah, do that, right? What else can we do? Reduce her boob size by 2 sizes. Yeah. Okay. We got a great character. Right? That's what they do. That's literally what they do. Like you cannot convince me that there's not a meeting taking place in China. It's like somewhere in a boardroom at HoYoVerse headquarters where that type of conversation is happening. I don't believe it. And like, no, listen, I wouldn't even be surprised if they release Dehya as a mid character and then release another character like in the dead patches that makes Dehya insane. No, like truly, that for example, Dehya comes out, it's she's disappointing. Oh crap, she's disappointing. Okay, I mean she's good if you run this team right now, and then let's say kind of like the Yaimiko situation. Fuck me, dude. Oh my god, if Dehya turns out like Yaimiko and she just blows up in Fontaine, you know what? Like, you see all that stuff that I was memeing on just now? Doesn't even, like, pales in comparison to the kind of BS they can pull by making her the Yaimiko of Sumeru and then buffing her in Fontaine. Oh my god. Especially since she's Pyro. Oh, no. Oh, she's Pyro, and then the Hydro Archon is coming. Oh, no. Yo, we might end up in a situation where pulling Dehya will be justified 5 patches later. The HVK is, but Walrus, that only makes sense if Dehya is popular. She's not popular in CN. Yes, please! Please! Selective beauty! Do your trick! Make sure to see... Okay, I can see why Dehya is not popular, and I've talked about this. It's just selective beauty, right? Like, by the Chinese beauty standard, these empowered, muscular, like, strong, independent women, dark skin, just aren't as popularized by Chinese beauty standards. So I can see that, right? I can see that. And if that's going to affect her, oh, please, CN player, don't pull her. Just make her very mid, then HoYoVerse will leverage more power into the kit to make her more powerful. Oh my god. That is our one saving grace. It's a CN players, don't pull her. Oh my goodness. That is, yeah. Take the virus says dark skin not considered beautiful. So yeah, like I made an entire video about this in the past, and I had people in the comments who said some very nasty things. I'll have you, like probably teenagers who are keyboard warriors. But I'm highlighting a cultural phenomenon. Okay, this is a cultural phenomenon. I completely forgot about that, right? Because like we're so head over heels for Dehya, but Cien might not be. So yeah, I see it. I see it. But still, oh man, like if they pull that stunt on Dehya, I'll be so disappointed because I've been waiting for Dehya since the first time she was teased, way before I think even 3.0 even came out. What if she HP scaling for Hydro Rhythm? Bro, stop, stop, no. Like, imagine if I mean, don't imagine. At this point, there's a very good chance she scales off some weird crap while also being a virgin character. She has to have some EM scaling. Oh no, she might. Will she have dual scaling? Do you guys think Dehya will have dual scaling? Like there will be parts of her kit that scales off of EM and parts that, but like majority scales off of HP. So then she runs in, but then she has to run Virgin. Is she gonna run a Virgin Vaporize team? Do you guys think there will be a Virgin Vaporize team possible? Hydro and Dendro don't exist together, do they? No, no, no. So Virgin Vaporize won't exist. What about Melt? Can Cryo and can Cryo and can Cryo and Dendro exist on an enemy at the same time? If I have Cryo on an enemy and Dendro, do Cryo and Dendro both stay on the enemy? Where's Nahida? Oh. Yes. Oh! Oh, interesting. And then I can use Pyro. And you can't reapply Cryo. Yeah, but the thing is, if you have a character like Ganyu, you don't need to like purposely reapply it. You can reapply it passively. Once you clear it, it immediately gets reapplied. You did 36-star Abyss? Yeah, I only do Abyss once pretty much per patch. And if I can't 36-star, unless it's like very, very straightforward and I just messed up, I don't really bother doing it again. Like if I go back and retweak my teams, I can probably do it, but it's so... I really hate the Golden Wolf Lord. This is my problem with this Abyss. I really don't want to bother with this. And since I don't want to bother with this, I don't want to go and bother with this either. So then I just leave these two like that. I remember I used the Raiden Hyper Carry with Hu Tao. And this was the result I got. So I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna bother. Like I really don't want to bother with this boss, especially since he's in the second half. If I kind of mess up some stuff, I gotta redo this chamber, which is just annoying. Yeah, like I think if I switch, like what's a composition that can probably just deal with the second half very easily? Because first half is not hard. It's just second half is very annoying. Pretty... Nilu Bloom destroys him. Like I have all the characters and the compositions, but I really just don't want to bother with this character. I mean this boss. Yeah, Ito probably can crush him as well, but it's... Bro, I've gotten to the point where I'm too lazy to switch over the artifacts as well. But yeah, going back to the conversations, like Cryo and Dendro might actually, that then now that we think about it, maybe this was a strategic thing, right? Like leaving out Cryo so then Dendro and Cryo don't cancel, like don't create a reaction, could be because in the future they want Cryo Dendro to set up for some sort of pyro melt. Because you guys got to remember, apart from Ganyu like reverse melt, there's really no other melt-centric teams. So going forward, Dehya might be the catalyst, or like they're setting up far in the future for what's that region? The Pyro region. They might be setting up for the Pyro region. Like, who knows? Whew. Exciting stuff. Samia Joe. Oh my god. You know, Samia, you are exposing yourself by typing out my full name. You just call me Walrus. If you just call, I'm the you are exposing yourself. The more chill, no, not Arrow. The more chill, the more you seem like you're part of the. Riona says, but you are so erotic. Samia, I love you, Erotic Walrus. Love you too, Samia. I love you too. Beluga Chat, what are you doing? What are you doing? Beluga Chan suddenly is tuning in as well. Everybody see. Samia, we need to get the Joeys in here as well. We need to get the Joeys in here. We need to pad the numbers here. We need a 5-star cryo version of Rosaria Melt. But like Ganyu kind of does that, no? Like Ganyu is like her burst is not centralized here, like, right? But look at that AoE, and the consistency is very good. Like, look at these icicles, man. Like what? Look at that. The consistency is very, very good. And it's auto-targeting enemies. It's not random. Oh, Joey. The Joeys are here. They're next to me as we speak. Oh, okay. We got the Joes. We got the Joeys. We got everybody in here. Oh, hold on. Since we got the Joeys and the Joes in here, let's get Jabba in here. One moment. Jabba, come, Jabba. Come here, Jabba. Oh, oh. You guys see my cat? Oh, Jabba, what you doing, girl? Oh, look at her. She's huge. Love your cat. Yeah, this is a huge cat. I think it's a Maine Coon or something like that. I think she's peeing. I smell pee. Did you pee on me? Oh, she's so big, it's so hard to hold her. But she's a giant fluff ball of love. Oh. Okay. You're free to go. Whew. That's a big cat. Samia, you can't be, Samia, the YouTube auto filter is very, very strict, right? The comment you type is too erotic. Okay, maybe it's not erotic, but like YouTube is deeming it to be too much. Listen, I don't make the rules. YouTube is just incredibly strict. You have to find very creative ways. To comment. That's Wolf Lord. Oh, you mean Jabba? Okay. But yeah, we're pretty much nearing the end of the stream here. When it comes to value between the new characters, I think like I said, I'm saying Alhaitham is better than Xiao, right? And I think by meta standards, like I think that's pretty good praise for a Alhaitham character. I think he's gonna come out as a very solid, overall, well-rounded character. He seems like the well-rounded type of dude. Samia, okay, one moment. Rate. Can you rate somebody for me? Rate this dude for me. Okay, Samia, you ready?
The origins of writing are lost to time, and it is forbidden to investigate the genesis of language. But since their inception, these symbols have silently recorded everything. The skies, the stars, the mountains, and the birds. Conflict. Peace. And people from all walks of life. Words are strung together and edited, history made, and archived for posterity. The scribe records not only the truth, but the questions it leaves unanswered. Many of them will remain unanswered forever. The profoundest eternal questions are met only with a boundless and eternal silence.
All right. Somebody says, I have a boyfriend. Well, me too. And his name is Alhaitham, right? Let's... Wait, I wonder if there's a Cantonese version. Joey, isn't it going to be very interesting to hear these characters speaking Cantonese? Okay. For people who speak Cantonese, do you think Cantonese is like a romantic voiceover language? Let's say imagine watching like a Disney movie, but in Cantonese dub. Is that like, does it work? Does that work? I think there are certain languages in the world that are just more like phonetically they sound more pleasing generally. Do you guys think Cantonese? I want to, like, right now I'm very curious. I want to find Cantonese Disney dub, but I know my live stream will immediately get copy strike. Samia Joe with the 199 poop emojis. Thank you, Samia. But Joey Wang, let me tell you, Chinese dub, Joey Wang. Let's listen to the Chinese teaser. Is this a CN teaser? Oh yeah, this is a CN. So you guys heard the EN one just now, right? English one. My God, there's like 7 pixels.
文字之渊源已不可考，穷究言语之滥觞亦是罪责。但文字诞生以来，就一直沉默地记录着一切。天空、星辰、群山、飞鸟。 争执、和平，各式各样的人生，无数的文字汇聚成档案，编纂成历史，尘封在岁月中。书记官收录真相，也收录真相背后的疑问。 许多疑问永远不会有答案。欲答永恒之疑问，唯有永恒之沉默。
Oh! Okay. Okay. Joey, I want to hear him in Russian. I don't think they have Russian dub for this, man. They have JP though. They do have JP, I believe. They do have Japanese, and I think they have Korean.
文字の由来はもう研究できない。言語の起源について追求することも罪となる。だが文字は生まれてから目前と全てを記録し続けてきた。空、星、山、鳥、争い、平和、それぞれの人生。無数の文字が資料を紡ぎ、歴史として編纂され、歳月に封じられる。書記官は真実とその後ろにある疑問を記録する。永遠に答えの見つからない疑問も多くある。永遠の沈黙のみが永遠の問いに対する答えだ。
That's how they get you, man. That's how they get you. Okay, now we've heard all of them. We gotta hear the KR one. I don't think KR can top this. I don't think so. I just don't think so. There's no way KR can top this. Where is KR? Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Here's the Korean version.
문자의 근원은 알 수 없고 언어의 기원을 캐는 건 역시 금지됐다.
오빠?
하지만 문자는 탄생 이래 조용히 모든 걸 기록하고 있지. 하늘과 별과 산과 그리고 새, 분쟁과 평화와 그리고 다양한 인생. 무수한 문자는 서류에 모여 역사가 되고 세월의 먼지 속에 묻히지. 서기관은 진실뿐만 아니라 진실 뒤에 가려진 의문도 기록한다. 많은 의문들은 영원히 답이 없겠지만 영원한 의문에 대한 답은 영원한 침묵만이 있을 뿐.
All the VAs, you know what? They all did great. I think JP is number 1. CN is number 2. KR number 3. EN is number 4. I don't know, man. Like, it's so hard, but like, somehow KR edges out EN, but I think CN, maybe I'm biased because I can kind of understand what they're saying, right? Huang Lei says, why does that sound like warm caramel latte on a chilly fall day? Absolutely correct. Well, I'm more of a hot chocolate person, but like, yeah, they have this, all the VAs with this character was able to embody his, I don't know, like what, it's very philosophical, first and foremost. This whole teaser has a philosophical vibe to it, right? So it's like, because in the end he poses a question. I mean, he doesn't pose a question. He basically says like all eternal questions are met with eternal silence, right? That's a very philosophical conclusion to all this stuff. But he seems like he's a character who yearns to learn and to find out. Yet the vast majority of the questions that he will never have answers for. So it actually lingers on a very like bittersweet note, is that there's just not enough answers to the questions that we have, right? So like, and this whole teaser embodies that entire feel, very like, and like, I don't know, it's kind of in some ways melancholy because he's trying to he's trying to recall answers that once was but have been lost to time, that are not inscripted and passed on through history, right? So yeah, like melancholy is maybe a right emotion to evoke here, because all this stuff at one point had answers for, but have since been lost to the sands of time. Sophisticated character. He's not a workaholic, right? He's not you see, here's the thing I have for Alhaitham is that, does he have a better character model than Ito? He looks like he does. But this is not... We'll see. We'll see. 55% for Ito, 45% for Xiao. That is a much closer voting poll, and I was not expecting it to be that close. Same model, better shading. Well, for a scholar, he is jacked. He is indeed. Anyways, that's going to be it for this stream. I will be making a video for tomorrow, and by Saturday, I think we should be getting close to the end of this patch, I believe. 5 days left. I really suggest people pick up a C0 Raiden Shogun. Do I have enough gems for Alhaitham? Most likely not. Look at my history here. Oh, wait. Oh, no. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. We got 4. We're 4 characters in. Yeah, like combine, like we can probably get to soft pity combined with maybe this 17 pulls. I think we can reach soft pity. So if we win the 50-50, maybe. Ooh, I'll just start collecting this. Maybe collect some of this, you know. That's too expensive, not worth. But yeah. Okay. Good luck to everybody. We have 5 days until Alhaitham arrives, and probably Dehya a month and a half from there. Wish you guys a happy day. If you guys are during the day, good evening. Good night's rest. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Till next time, urge you to stay safe. Peace, peace. Let's end the poll here. Bye-bye.